right, here we go.
Hi, everyone. We're just going to let some people funnel in and we'll get started. We'll start with a Q&A real quick. How long will this webinar last? This webinar will be 30 minutes with a live Q&A included in that. Okay, so good afternoon, everyone. Hello, I'm Danielle Vinci. I'm the marketing manager at CEFALY, and I'm thrilled to welcome you all to today's webinar, How to Build New Habits for Migraine Prevention. Migraine can be a challenging journey filled with dietaries, do's and don'ts, sleep schedules, and hydration dilemmas. It's not always easy to stick to a prevention routine, but that's where our focus lies today. I want to introduce our speaker, Beth. Beth brings to the table over a decade of experience in the medical device industry. Her diverse background includes expertise in mental health, addiction, and migraine. With a master's of education in clinical mental health counseling under her belt, she spent 700 hours immersed in clinical counseling during her master's program. Beth's commitment to excellence doesn't stop there. She is also a certified FEMA emergency management professional. For the past 5 years, Beth has been at the forefront of non-invasive neuromodulation, contributing significantly to this dynamic field as a med device field trainer. Beyond that, Beth is also a board member for Something for Kelly, and for 4 years, she has been a clinical consultant educating facilities and offices on how to develop effective patient programs. And of course, let's not forget Stella, Beth's amazing furry sidekick, who without a doubt adds an extra touch of joy to her life. Today's webinar will be going over the following topics: migraine threshold theory, the seeds of migraine prevention, how CEFALY can help prevent migraine, and tips for success using CEFALY. We will also have a live Q&A at the end where we would take any questions you have about our topic or CEFALY device itself. So please feel free to pop questions into the chat or our Q&A, and at the end, me and Beth will answer them for you. So further ado, go ahead, Beth.
Thanks, Danielle. And oh my gosh, thanks all of you for being here. We had such a good time at our last webinar. I'm so glad you made it to this one. So before we get started, who is CEFALY? So we make the CEFALY migraine device. It's the connected. It's a wearable drug-free migraine that uses external trigeminal stimulation. So what that means is we're externally being able to stim the trigeminal nerve, and the trigeminal nerve usually comes kind of right behind your eye, right behind your nose, and right behind your teeth right there. And what this stim does is it really affects both preventative and acute treatment for migraine. One of the most important things about what we do is we really want to share a device that really benefits your quality of life. Being a migrainer is not easy at all. Everybody has a different experience. Your quality of life can actually be affected by migraine. And so our goal as a company is to really put out educational materials, devices, things that really bring you back to your life and to your world, right? And we believe every person living with this condition deserves to feel better. We want the quality of life. We want that one thing that keeps you down. We want to help it. We want to tackle it. So we just are very thankful that you're here. We really want to keep putting out good patient education materials, all the good stuff that really lends itself to you and your relationship with migraine. Okay. So migraine is going to be a very individual experience. No two people have the same experience. They don't necessarily have the same symptoms, triggers, everything, right? So your journey is very much your own. And I want to really concentrate on that because we're going to go through a lot of things in this slide deck today. And, not every single thing is going to work for everybody. It's almost kind of like finding your secret sauce, right? You have to figure out what are your triggers? What are those things that help alleviate your triggers? What are the things that we can be more mindful about to really help your individual migraine journey? While there's no single thing that we can do to avoid any migraine attacks, there are certain things that we can do that have been shown to increase our migraine threshold, right? So your migraine threshold is kind of interesting, and I might actually go to this next slide because I think we'll do a visual while we're talking about it. So I want you to think about any time that you have just had it up to here, right? Things have just not been going your way. Stuff's going on. Things are hard. And that one person comes up to you and gives you something, and it is just your last straw, right? And it's not anything, it's not specifically what that person did or said, but it was the fact that that was the tip of the iceberg for you. That was that one thing that kind of took you over the edge. And that's kind of what your migraine threshold is like, right? Your migraine threshold is where you have an accumulation of all your triggers, right? And they're slowly building, and you've got that line. And usually there's one thing or another that takes you over that line. And that's when we usually have a migraine, right? And those triggers look different for everybody. The level of your threshold will look different. But basically what we want to do when we think preventatively is we want to do something that builds that trigger threshold, right? We want to do something that's kind of like poking the bear, right? You either need to poke a little less or you need a more tolerant bear. So what we want to do is we want to figure out how we can maybe not have such stackable triggers. And then there are going to be some triggers there's nothing you can do about it, right? Like barometric pressure is one, you can't help the weather. But there are certain things that we may be able to kind of get into check so that we don't go over that trigger. And then we might actually be able to do some things, which we'll talk about later, that actually increase that level. So it takes more of your triggers to really push it over the edge. So let's talk about some seeds. Like, what are some things that we can do for migraine prevention? Sleep is so very important. And you know what's interesting about sleep is something that gets misconstrued a lot. Because if you ask me when I went to go about my sleep last night, I'll say, well, I went to bed at 10 and I got up at 6. So I totally got 8 hours of sleep. Well, I also scrolled on my phone for 30 minutes. I also kind of, maybe walked around and went to the bathroom. So my actual time of sleep is a lot less than I usually think it is. The other thing is the quality of sleep that you're getting, right? Not everybody gets good sleep. It's just a fact. I mean, especially you may have children, dogs, partners sleeping in your bed with you. You may have a job where you're on call. There are all kinds of things that can disrupt sleep. So one of the things that we can do is really kind of be mindful of what does my sleep look like? If any of you have these smartwatches, a lot of them will actually have part of an app on it that will track your sleep. I think, are some rings on the market now too. And there are some apps where you don't have to get any kind of a device that actually will help monitor your sleep. And I would be interested in learning more about my sleep for sure, but I would also be interested in you guys learning a little bit more about the quality of sleep that you get. Because sometimes it's not the amount, but it's really the quality of sleep that we're getting. And I don't know if you guys know this, but sleep has a lot to do with depression. So if you're not getting enough sleep, it can also lend itself to depression, and it doesn't give our body enough time to rest. So sleep is huge. If there's any way that we can kind of be a little bit mindful about how can we get better sleep, how can we put ourselves in a situation where we can get better sleep? What does our sleep look like? Sometimes if we're just a little bit more aware of it, it can really help us. Second thing is definitely low impact exercise. You do not have to go out there and be crushing it if you don't want to. I think there's a misconception about exercise. Exercise really, especially at a low impact, is really good for your brain. It's really good for your mental health. It's really good for your body in general. Your body needs to move. And also hydration. So I have a friend, and she says that one of the things that she does for her hydration is she decides how much water she wants to drink and then puts it in one of these big buckets. And then she'll randomly pour herself out glasses. So you don't have to feel really intimidated by carrying around something like this. But she pours out her glasses and it keeps her water intake on track. I don't know about some of you, but I actually get migraine from dehydration. So I have to be really careful when I exercise, when it's hot in the great state of Texas. Like, I get dehydrated very quickly. And I'm sure some of you do too. And water can be something that can really alleviate some of that trigger, right? So anything that you can do to hydrate is always good. Migraine friendly meals, it's hard. I mean, some of the best things are some of the things that trigger our migraines, right? Alcohol, chocolate, and you don't want to feel like you're missing out either. So if you know it's a trigger for you, then maybe let's talk about, well, what does my day look like tomorrow? If I should have that, how will that affect my day tomorrow, right? Because at the end of the day, you guys aren't perfect. Like, you're still going to have triggers. You're still going to have a night where you don't have good sleep. You're still going to have a yummy meal that you really enjoyed with friends, but that may have triggered a migraine. You're still going to, forget to drink that extra 20 ounces of water every day, because you know what? You're human, and that's okay. So the goal isn't to be perfect. We're always a work in progress. So the goal is to say, okay, let's mindfully think about, okay, what can I do in these systems and how can I set myself up for success, right? A diary. So can I just tell you that migraineurs are the most resourceful group of patients that I have ever had. You guys research, you find the coolest things. I love how you support each other. And so I've been very impressed with how many migraineurs I know actually keep a migraine diary. And if you're not keeping a migraine diary and you're interested, we have a great app. We have a CC app that's incredible, but we also there are other things that you can use. I like to be a paper writer, so I like to write things down. I have a friend that actually has a spreadsheet for her migraines and her trackers. But the goal of a diary really is to get to know yourself better. It humanizes your experience, because then we can start to see patterns. Well, I ate this today and I had a migraine yesterday. I went running and I didn't get enough water. Maybe that had something to do with it. Smells, right? I mean, you can't help smells. You can't help barometric pressure, but you may be able to see, oh my gosh, on days when the pressure is like this and it's a rainy day, like, I know that I'm going to get a migraine. So knowing your patterns and knowing yourself is actually very cool, because it very much can help you with your migraine threshold. And then stress. We're all going to have it. I mean, I know that the last time I was on a webinar, I had a lot of college students on here, and stress was like one of the number one things. And remember, you're going to be in new environments. Maybe your work life is stressful. Children can be stressful. Like, stress is never anything to be ashamed of. It's something that we have in our lives. But what we want to do is we want to just be able to practice things that really de-escalate us and make us feel better, okay? So sometimes if you're in a tough situation or you're feeling stressed, maybe walk around the block, take a minute, walk to the ladies' room or the men's room. If you have a meeting that's just stressed you out, take a minute, take some quiet time. Like, it is okay, because everyone in the world is going to experience stress. So being able to take that moment for yourself, take some time. There's some great apps. I don't know if any of you have used Headspace. That's an awesome app, but there are apps you can use for stress too. So the goal of the Seeds of Migraine Prevention is really to just explore what our current habits are and see, is there anything that we could tweak or do different, or that we could learn more about ourselves, that maybe we can help manage our migraines, right? And like I said, there's going to be days where it's barometric pressure. It's that lady in the elevator with you with that wild perfume. There are definitely going to be things that you have no control over. And that has nothing to do with not being good enough, not doing the things you had to do. Sometimes they just creep up on us. But knowing it and being mindful is really helpful. And also, if anybody has an interest, we have a great blog that actually tackles a lot of these topics on our website. Okay, so what is the goal of preventative treatment with CEFALY? We want to reduce the number of migraine days and frequency that we have migraine, right? So one of the coolest parts about CEFALY is it's a 2-program device. So we can use it when we have an active migraine, which also you can use if you have an active migraine and you get aura. The minute you have aura, you can also put it on, okay? And then the other is the prevent mode. And a lot of people, it's funny, tend to use it one or the other, but you have both cool programs on one device. So what we do is we actually put it on our forehead. We put it, there's going to be an electrode right here, and it snaps on, and it's going to be right above your eyebrow ridge, kind of center right here. My nose is a little crooked, so, but right above the eyebrow ridge right here. And what it does is your trigeminal nerve has a branch that comes right up here and right up here. It's called the V branch of your trigeminal nerve. And what the device does is when you're in a migraine, it gives a high frequency stimulation, and that high frequency stimulation riles up that nerve and desensitizes it. And what happens is when we desensitize that nerve, it decreases the pain signal to the brain, right? But when we're doing preventative mode, we actually want a lower frequency, right? The goal isn't to wear out your nerve. The goal is to poke the bear, right? So we want to give your nerve just enough stim to kind of keep poking it, right? We're just trying to raise that migraine threshold a little bit so that it takes more of those triggers that you have to elicit a migraine. So we did actually one of the first clinical studies on preventative treatment. And I don't know how much you guys know about clinical studies, but I would encourage you to check them out, because I know a lot of you on here actually have quite the toolbox of migraine interventions, right? Pharmaceuticals, devices, all the things. And most of those things have clinical studies that go with them, right? And sometimes a clinical study can be kind of intimidating. I find that most people either voraciously read them and love them, or they can kind of be a little bit intimidated by a clinical study, because they're not really written for patients like you and me. They're written for providers, right? And so trying to extrapolate the data that's meaningful for you or gives you like a good idea of what's going on can be a little bit difficult. In fact, Danielle and I thought about possibly doing a webinar on how to read a clinical study, because it's important information that I think you guys should know, but like being able to break it down. So knowing like what the goal of the study is, how they did it, what they were looking for, and what that final data looks like. So just to give you an idea, so we did a study to investigate the safety and efficacy of trigeminal nerve stimulation externally for preventative migraine treatment, okay? And so what this looks like is we have a first 30 days, and it's called a run-in. And that's where we kind of make sure our patients meet criteria, right? You know, did they have 2 migraines in a span of 30 days? Were they able to use the equipment? One of the things we looked for was called allodynia, and that is where you are very sensitive in this forehead area, right? So we looked at all those things, and after 30 days, we split everybody into 2 groups. The groups were the Verum group, and those are the group that get the regular CEFALY preventative stim, right, at 60 hertz. Then we had another group that's called the sham group. And the sham group is exactly how it sounds. It's the sham, right? So they don't get the therapeutic stimulation like the Verum group does. But we give them 1 hertz of stimulation so they feel something, right? Because the goal is you don't want to know what group you're in. So this was a double-blinded study, which means that both the researcher and the subject don't know which intervention they got, okay? So part of this group got the real stim, part of the group got very little stim, like 1 hertz, okay? And over 3 months, the patients were asked to wear this device for 20 minutes every day for our preventative treatment, okay? And what we saw is 38.1 of the Verum group, right? And that's the group that, excuse me, had the CEFALY stim, saw at least a 50% reduction in migraine days. And that's at least, so that's 50% greater or equal than 50%, which in a study is a great number. The other thing that we saw is of those patients that saw relief from our preventative treatment, 75% of those saw a decrease in anti-migraine medication, which is awesome, you guys. So to be able to reduce your migraine days and also reduce the anti-migraine medication, preventative medication you're taking is really awesome. So when we saw those results, we were really, really happy with the study. And also what's cool is we saw little to no adverse events, right? So one of the coolest things about CEFALY is once you take off the device, any of the adverse events, which we didn't actually have any in the study, either go away or reduce in the next couple of minutes. So it is a great device. It is a wonderful way to do treatment. I've really had a lot of patients say some really nice things about the ability to kind of have a preventative intervention in their hands, right? So how do you use it? So a couple of things. You want to make sure this bad boy is charged. It has 7 hours of battery life in here, okay? So always making sure your CEFALY is charged. Is your electrode in good condition, right? So if your electrode's sticking really nicely, you're good. If it's curling on the side or you're having any trouble getting it to stick, we probably need to swap out electrodes because that electrode needs to be taut to the skin, right? Because that stem is a current and it has to have somewhere to go. So you want that electrode tight on the skin and the skin conducts that current. You want to make sure your forehead is washed with soap and water and dried. Soap and water is super important because alcohol can sometimes leave a residue. So we suggest soap and water. Making sure your electrode is correctly placed and really lying down in a comfortable position. You don't have to be totally flat on a bed or a couch. You can definitely sit in your lazy boy, sit in a chair and just lean back. We just want to make sure that electrode has good contact to the skin, okay? When you're starting your device, you'll push it once and you will see a aqua circle come up, okay? That's the acute mode. Once you see the aqua circle come up, press it again and it will become purple and you're in the prevent mode. So a couple of things about the prevent. I know that it can be really hard to find 20 minutes for yourself. Trust me, I know, and I don't have half as much going on as you guys do. So trying to find that 20 minutes that you can just kind of give yourself the time to lay back, do treatment, you know, take a minute for yourself. It's an investment in your own well-being. We really encourage reclining. And one of the great things is that one of the side effects of CEFALY is actually it has a sedative effect. So if you feel like a bedtime routine might be be good for you, this would be great. So sometimes what I'll do is when I do preventative treatment, I wash my face at night and I go ahead and I put my CEFALY on for 20 minutes. And I actually listen to Headspace before I go to bed. And it is wonderful, y'all. I know that it can be very difficult just to find that you time. But when I make it part of my bedtime routine, I rarely miss it. And it has made a huge difference for me. Couple of things. So let's say bedtime doesn't work for you. What habit do you have where you kind of get to sit down for a minute? Maybe make it part of that habit. I have a really good friend that loves to read. She takes time to read in the morning. Maybe has her quiet time, and that's when she does her prevent every day, you guys. So we really want you to do it every day for 20 minutes. But I will tell you this. When we looked at the data from the other study, we counted data from people that used it 55 through 90 days. So what that data says to me is, you know, if you miss a day, it was a big day, you got to sleep, you missed it, it's okay. Because most of the users that have it every day can be a trial. We encourage every day because you'll see results in 2 to 3 months. You'll see a difference. But if you should miss a day or something's going on, the data that we showed you in the study was from people that used it 55 to 90 days. So they weren't perfect and they still got great results. So be kind to yourself as you're doing treatment. Some days you're just not going to get it done. And some days it's going to be harder than others, but give yourself grace and do the best that you can with doing daily treatment, okay? And our CC app, right? We want to be able to track your progress. So if you have an interest in a migraine diary, use CC. You can add when you did your treatment, how you felt, what was going on, any triggers, what you did for those triggers. And it can actually give you a really nice report of the patterns that you've had over the last couple of months. And you can export it and share it with your provider. Okay. Gosh, I did good on time today, Danielle.
Yeah.
I was worried that I was talking y'all's ears off.
Oh no, it's always good to hear you talk about all the amazing things. So we had quite a good amount of questions come in. So let's just jump right into it.
Sure.
First coming from Mary, can the electrode adhesiveness be improved? So are there any tips about electrodes that we can offer our audience?
Yes. So, hi, Mary. It's nice to meet you. So one of the things you can do for your electrodes is I actually, once you're finished, I believe I have one here. Once you're finished, you want to put it back on the plastic and in the original bag. So I have one here. So when you're using it after you're done, put it back on here, put it in this bag and stick it in the fridge. So that does two things for you. One, it helps with the integrity of the gel to last longer. And the other thing is it's nice and cool on your head when you're having a migraine. Other thing is sometimes you don't want it to like sit out. So as soon as you're finished, put it on the plastic. Um, with the weather, with the type of skin that we have, there's a lot of things that go into the integrity of the gel on the electrodes. But the best thing I can do is the better we take care of them, the longer they last. If you see any curling or anything, probably time to use another electrode. But I've seen a better difference in my electrodes for putting them in the fridge.
Yeah, I love putting mine in the fridge. You get that nice little
Yeah.
cool to touch. Um, if I do, this is coming from Deb, if I do an acute treatment, should I also do a prevent treatment in the same day? So can you discuss about how many treatments you can do a day, when to do them?
Yeah. Hey, Deb, it's nice to meet you. Okay, so let's talk about that. So, if you're doing acute treatment, you're probably in the throes of a migraine, right? So maybe that day is the day that we really want to work on desensitizing that trigeminal nerve if it's giving you trouble. So you can actually do two acute treatments in back to back and then wait a little while and you can do two more. So my suggestion to you is where are you with how you're feeling? Like if you were to do a acute treatment in the morning and your migraine's pretty good, you're more than welcome to do a 20-minute treatment that night for sure. But if maybe you're still struggling with your migraine a little bit, maybe instead of doing your prevent treatment that night, you probably may want to do another round of acute treatment because we want to make sure that we're targeting the nerve for what we want it to do, right? So we want to hit it with high if you're in the middle of a migraine, but if you feel better that day, we can hit it with a low to work on your threshold.
So we had a question come in. It is for those of us with daily migraine, what setting should we use regularly? So can you go over the intensity level and how to find
Yeah.
that level that's best for the user?
Yeah. So if you're having a migraine, like if you were in the throat, definitely having a migraine, use the acute because the goal is we want to decrease those pain signals to the brain, right? We want to see if we can help you get that down and really help with your most bothersome symptoms, right? So for the acute, what we're looking for is we're trying to get you to at least resolution of your most bothersome symptom. Like what's that thing that's keeping you from, doing the thing that you want to do that day? I would definitely start with acute and do the acute routine for daily migraine. Um, it wouldn't hurt to do a prevent at night if you wanted to. But I also want to be respectful of like what you need in the day. So this is where migraine becomes very individualistic, right? So what do you feel like you need more that day? Is it that you need some really good migraine relief? Let's do acute. If it's like kind of a low grade migraine and you're kind of covering it with other things and you're more worried about just kind of like maybe doing some preventative things, you can use the prevent. It kind of has to be individualized to what you need in the moment. And that's something that we can talk about. So if you want to talk more about that, let them reach out to marketing and let them know. We can kind of get a little bit more information for you for that.
Yeah, definitely. We had a couple questions come in about CEFALY and Botox. Can you talk a little bit about
Yeah.
using CEFALY while also getting the amazing Botox treatment?
Yeah, y'all don't look at my wrinkles right now. Um, so both are amazing, right? So Botox is great. you may use your CEFALY and do Botox at the same time. When you do the injections, when you get your injections that day, you want to wait 48 hours because we just don't want to put an active electrode on your injection site, right? I don't think that'd be very comfortable. But you wait 48 hours and then you can use your CEFALY as usual. And I'll also tell you a great time if you get Botox, that 60 to 90 days where it's starting to wear off a little bit, but you're not ready to get the next injection. That is a great time to use CEFALY. It really does help quite a bit.
Yeah, I use mine together and it's great within that 48 hours, of course. I'm going to take one more question and then I will let you guys know that the questions that haven't been answered live, there will be a follow-up email and I'll make sure that there's enough of information on there to answer any questions that may have been lingering. This question comes in anonymously. I think I might be one of those people who are sensitive in the forehead. What is the best way to gradually increase the CEFALY intensity so that I can develop tolerance?
Sure. Okay. So the best way for me, and let me just mention this. In the past, a lot of people have the notion that you have to get all the way up to 100% on the CEFALY to see any kind of results. And we've really discovered that intensity is not as important as duration, right? Like it's much better for you to find a spot that you really like than to be worried about just getting really high and then it's really uncomfortable, right? So we don't want to do that. So my suggestion is start low. And so the way that we usually stabilize treatment is we kind of wait till we feel something and we push it down one time and it stabilizes it. And some people will let it go a little longer, some people don't. But for anybody that struggles with just feeling nervous about this, go to where you feel it just a little and stabilize your treatment, okay? Every time you push it down once, now you don't want to hold it down for more than 20 seconds or it will go straight to 100%. But you can just click it down almost like you do your keyboard key and it will go up 1% at a time. And so you kind of meet yourself where you are, right? So start when you just feel it a little bit, get to where you feel okay with that, stabilize your treatment, and then just go 1% up at a time and see where it goes because it's happened a lot. I have a patient in Mobile that used to call it the cattle prod because she would go up to a certain point and just that next percent just was terrible. And so we really got down to, and this is where the CC app actually can be really good because it shows you where you are on the app and where your percentages are. So you can see what exactly is the percent that's your specific spot, right? So just go up a little slowly. And we have a coaching program. So if you need help with that, or I'm always willing to help too. Like if there's something that I can help you with, or we can work on it together, just let marketing know. And that's something that either the coaches or I can help you with.
Yeah, great. Thank you so much, Beth. This has been great. I hope everyone had an amazing time. I just want to encourage everyone a couple things. So one, definitely visit cefaly.com. Make sure to follow us on social media, Facebook, Instagram, TikTok. We once a week we do lives, coaching session lives to help you learn more about the device. We also have our coaching program, which you can make an appointment on cefaly.com and book a one-on-one conversation with our amazing coaches and customer service. Yeah, so thank you so much, Beth, and thank you for everyone for joining in.
Y'all have a great day.